All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Shnupad Pranamahamsa Bhagavad-Gita Ashtotar the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavad-Gita Ashtotar the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so it looks like 20. Chad, are you there? It is 20.
Yes,
right?
20. Yes.
20, good. Okay.
Audible.
Thank you. Okay, let me get the day right. On this 9th day of January 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text number 19 at the bottom of page 206. Oh, it's 20. Oh, I'm sorry. Text 20 on page 207. Tyaktva karma palasangam nityatripto narashriyah karmani abhipavritto api naiva kinchit karoti saha tyaktva karma palasangam nityatripto nirashriyah karmanyabhipavrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha tyaktva karma palasangam nityatripto nirashriyah karmanyabhipavrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha tyaktva karma palasangam nityatripto nirashriyah karmanyabhipavrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha tyaktva karma palasangam nityatripto nirashriyah karmanyabhipavrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Not yet? Okay. Chad?
Tyaktva karma palasangam
Tyaktva karma palasangam
nityatripto narashrayah
nityatripto nirashriyah
karmanyaya abhipavrittopi
karman abhipavrittopi
naiva kinchit karoti saha.
naiva kinchit karoti saha. Anyone else out there?
Tattva karma palasangam
Tyaktva karma palasangam
nityatripta nirashraya
nityatripto nirashriyah
karmani abhipravritta api
karmanyabhipavrittopi
naiva kinchit karoti sha.
naiva kinchit karoti saha. Okay, word by word. Tyaktva, having given up. Karma palasangam, attachment for fruitive results. Nitya, always. Triptaha, being satisfied. Nirashriyaha, without any shelter. Karmani, in activity. Abhipavrittaha, being fully engaged. Api, in spite of. Na, does not. Eva, certainly. Kinchit, anything. Karoti, do. Saha, he. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruit of action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. So there's a he and his there. So who is that? Must be the one described in text 19, which I'll read before reading the purport. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So that's the person who's renouncing the fruits of his action and, of course, giving them the Krishna. Purport. The freedom from the bondage of actions is possible only in Krishna consciousness, when one is doing everything for Krishna. A Krishna-conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he has no attraction for the results of the action. He is not even attached to his personal maintenance, for everything is left to Krishna. Nor is he anxious to secure things, not to protect things already in his, nor to protect things already in his possession. He does his duty to the best of his ability and leaves everything to Krishna. Such an unattached person is always free from the resultant reactions of good and bad. It is though he were not doing anything. This is the sign of akarma, or actions without fruit of reactions. Any other action, therefore, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is binding upon the worker, and that is the real aspect of vikarma, as explained herein before. Om jnana timarandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, this as I explained last night, that this chapter is entitled Transcendental Knowledge, but in the last few verses we are learning all about activity. These three divisions: karma, akarma, and vikarma. And Krishna says it's very important to understand the distinction between them. So here Krishna is describing akarma. Now akarma, if we understand karma to mean activity, then akarma to mean would seem to be not doing anything at all. But that's not what's described. Akarma means you may be active, but your motivation is not selfish, but it's simply to please Krishna, to work for Krishna's sake. And that includes also working for the sake of the spiritual master, because all his motives is to please Krishna, and also the devotees, because that's most pleasing to Krishna, to help the devotees. So these are all things, but you're not the center of it. Your personal desire is not your motivation. That's pure devotion. So this is Krishna is explaining the difference between, as he said, the distinction we have to know: karma, akarma, and vikarma. Now, karma has these two categories. Karma can mean, it has three things. Karma can mean the results of your activity. Bad karma, right? Oh, I have some bad karma coming. And we learn that there are different stages of that. You may perform some sinful activity or something that you know is going to have a reaction, but it doesn't come right away. It takes time. And then when you're actually suffering, maybe the next birth, then it's prarabdha karma. Mean that it's fructifying. You're suffering now for something that you did before. Prarabdha is waiting to get you. Both of those can be burned up by the fire of devotional service. And that's when Krishna says, Sarva dharma puditya jamamekam saranam bhaja. Aham tvam samakarma bil mokshya sami mashitaha. That you just surrender unto me, give up, forget about all of the different dharmas I described, this karma yoga and ashtanga yoga and everything. You do this one thing and surrender to me, means that you're completely dovetailing your activity with my desires. Just like Arjuna, he didn't want to do that at first. That's what the whole Gita is on one level. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna why he should fight, he must fight. And at the end, Arjuna says these famous words, Karashe vachanam tava, I will do as you say. You know, if we can approach Krishna and say the same thing sincerely, then we're on the safe side. So the idea is that in our conditioned state, we're suffering all of these reactions to previous activity, either in this embodiment or previous embodiments or embodiments. And they all gradually come due, just like a disease. You may contract an infection, but you're not sick right away. It takes time. And then all of a sudden, I got a headache and I got a fever and oh, do I have COVID? I have coughing, It takes time. So these selfish activities, these karmic activities, which really moves into vikarma, where there's no consideration of restriction, which the Vedas give you. All right, you want to act fruitively? Okay, we have a whole section here for you, where you worship the demigods, you perform the sacrifice, you do this, and then you can be promoted in your next life to heaven or to a better birth in this lifetime. It's an investment, But it's all on the material side. And ultimately Krishna says it's foolish, because then you get to the point, I'm enjoying like anything in heaven now, I made it. But it's also temporary. It may last a lot longer than here, but still, eventually you have to lose that, come back down here. You haven't made any advancement toward your goal in life, which is to get free from birth and death, attain love of God, and go back to Godhead permanently. You see? It's a trick, a Maya's trick. Okay, you know, you're not going to be a gross demon and you know, and suffer in hell. Fine. So why don't you, but you want to act fruitively, you want to better your material position. So therefore you do these strictures, you act this way, you perform this sacrifice. There's a whole section of the Vedas that does that, called karma kanda. Karma kanda means worshipping the demigods in a certain way, very strictly, and performing sacrifices, observing this, and homa, all these things, for the purpose of advancing to the heavenly planets, or at least to a much better birth in this planet where you can, on Earth, so you can advance eventually there. The whole thing is material. But it's not gross material, sinful, demonic, you know, which is vikarma, where you go to hell and you suffer for like anything for a long time. Or you get a birth in some lower species, you know. So these are the intricacies of action. But Krishna is here in this verse that we just read, text 20, he's describing further describing those who he described in text 19, which I read. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. Now this is, you know, expanded upon ad infinitum almost in the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is like a much more, you know, vast explanation of these things. And we have the teachings of Lord Rishabdev. He's an incarnation of Krishna. And in 5th canto, chapter 5, he gives his instructions to his sons. He's about to retire, and he has 100 sons. And he gives, he's called them together, now he's giving his final instructions, and we're able to listen to them. It's invaluable, you know. So he talks about the need in human life for tapasya. Means exactly contrary to the idea of just, if it feels good, do it. If it feels good, don't do it, you know. If it feels a little bad, do it for the sake of purification, under guidance. So he has this famous verse, which Prabhupada gave, I listen to his tapes all the time, you know, in chronological order sometimes. So you get to the fifth canto, 5th chapter, text 1. That's the first verse of his instructions to his sons. And Prabhupada, when that book came out, that was part of the 17 books in 2 months marathon, 1975. The remaining volumes of the CC, let's call it 15 volumes, were produced in 2 months miraculously. I mean, it was quite a watershed for ISKCON in general as to what is possible if you really work together and you surrender. And so I had the great good fortune of participating in that marathon. And so the 5th canto was part of it. I didn't edit that chapter, so others did. But Prabhupada, he was in India, and wherever he went, he would give a lecture on this verse. He would keep giving, he didn't go to text 2, he would do text 1. It's so important. So here's the verse. I put it mostly into a little poem, with a few. So it says, Nayam, it has an interesting beat. You know, they all have a beat, you know. And this one has like a little walking beat, you know. Nayam deho deha bhajang loke Kṛṣṇa kama narate vidbhujange Tapo divyam puttakayena sattvam Shuddye yasma brahma saukyam tvanantam. That's the beat. So what he's saying there is that human beings, this is very important, to recognize the importance and the rarity, the good fortune, and the responsibility of using properly when you have a human life, which is what we have. So Nra, the word Nra is short for Nara, just like we have Narasingha, you know, which is shortened to Nrasingha. Nara is the human part, Singha is a lion, a combination of man and lion, right? So he's an incarnation, he's not a man and he's not a lion, okay, he's a combination. So Nriloke means within the human society, those living entities who have taken birth as human beings. Nayam Deho, who have achieved a human body, then they're not supposed to do something, and he tells what you. Nayam Deho Deha Bhajang Nirloke is taking birth amongst human beings. Should not do this. Kṛṣṇa karman arhate vidbhujange. Should not simply work hard, kashtan, with struggle, with great endeavor and, you know, and painful, for fulfilling material desire, lusty desire, kaman, meaning strong material desires of all kinds, which are just what the hogs are doing, and they're eating their horrible, you know, lunch. We're not going to mention what it is. We know. So Kṛṣṇa kama nadate vidbhujang, literally mean the stool eaters. Don't work like that. Then what should we do? And then the third line is Tapo divyam, you need to perform austerity, but not like Hiranyakashipu. Anyone, if you've attended any of the morning classes or you heard him, he performed extraordinary austerities just to become the most powerful demon in the universe, which he did. He was in control of the whole universe. Even the demigods were afraid of him, except for Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. But that's not, this is divine austerity. It's for purifying our existence, which he says, O sons, tapo divim putraka yena, by which sattvam shuddhyed, you will purify your existence. The whole process of Krishna consciousness is purification. Our original being, original consciousness is all there. In other words, it never is destroyed, but it can be covered. Our conscience can be covered with all kinds of abhadras, inauspicious things. Lust, anger, greed, fear. These deep-seated emotions can cover our original consciousness, and we have no clue about who we really are. So, but divine austerity, under the guidance of the Shastra and the Guru and the guides performing, then you purify. The sattvam is your existence. Shuddhyed is purify. So what do you get for that? Then he describes sattvam shuddhyed. Nayam deho dehabagdana loke Kṛṣṇa kama nadate vidbhujang tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhyed yasmad brahmasaukyam tvanantam. So here is the stark choice. One can disregard these instructions and simply continue to work under the sway of Maya, the illusion, unto material desires we've cultivated since time immemorial, and fears and all these things. But that will simply get us another birth, and we may lose the human form of life, and we're not making any advancement, and we're still suffering like anything. So if we accept the need to perform these austerities, and the genuine spiritual master and guide will give you austerities that is possible for you to do, and chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 regs, it may be difficult at first, but if you pray and you chant sincerely, then you can do it, And so that's a tremendous step forward, that to actually accept those austerities. And getting up early is another one, right? It means getting to bed early. It means you can't, fool around until late at night. So all of these things are blessings, really. They're blessings because they purify our existence. And you know that, this is pleasing to the spiritual master and to Krishna, and that makes you happy. So that's the result. Tapodim putrakayena sattvam shuddhyed, you purify your existence, and from that, yasmad, brahma saukyam tvanantam. Whoa! You know what that means? Brahma saukyam means spiritual happiness, which doesn't end. It increases. You don't find anything like that in sense gratification. There's always a beginning and an end, and it brings on all kinds of miseries, and therefore the wise do not delight in them. This is my favorite verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaya sparshe swasaktatma vindityatmana yat sukham. Yes, that's the verse. Bhaya sparshe asakmata vindityatmana yat sukham sab brahma yoga yuktanma sukham akshayam ashnute. That the wise do not take pleasure do not take part in the pleasures that derive from the object, contacting the object of the senses with the senses. In other words, sense gratification. O Arjun, son of Kunti, Krishna speaking to Arjun, these pleasures are the source of all misery, and they have a beginning and an end, and therefore the wise do not delight in them. Then the question, well, where do they get pleasure? Well, it's explained explicitly by Rishabdev. Brahma saukyam. We have a whole reservoir of pleasure in our heart because Krishna is there. In other words, we are naturally residents of the spiritual world. This existence in the material world is unnatural for us. It's like we're like fish out of water, and we can never be happy here. We can only be ultimately happy and peaceful in the spiritual world. Now, the process is so powerful that it can create oases in this material world, where it's like the spiritual world, and that's what Prabhupada endeavored so hard to do: establish these temples and communities and farms and everything, where everybody is focused on service to Krishna and Guru, and they're all practicing and they're helping each other be Krishna conscious, and there's bliss flowing everywhere. Now it's hard to keep that going because we're in the material world, but still that's the ideal. So Krishna is telling us the same thing here. He's saying here's the prerequisite, text 19. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. So why perform anything then for Krishna's sense gratification? That's the simple fact. If we can focus on what pleases the other devotees, what will please Prabhupada, what will please my guru or gurus, like that, and do that, not focusing on ourselves, we'll find ourselves blissful. It's like, if you really want to be blissful, forget about your own bliss. Just don't even worry about it. Try to just focus on what will make Krishna happy. And you can see, if you do something, little that is devotional service and nice, and you look at the deities, oh, he seems to be smiling a little more broadly at me. You ever have that experience? Krishna's looking so blissful, and you find, I don't have a care in the world at that time. Now, Maya can come in again, and this material world is so dangerous. But that's the ideal, and pure devotion means at every moment to be experiencing that. You're always thinking of Krishna, and everything you do with your body, minds, and word, your words, body, and mind, is for the pleasure of Krishna. And therefore, we saw Prabhupada, he was free of fear, because he knew that he wasn't this body, He had some dangerous things. He had a head-on crash in a car in Mauritius. But he was, I think he was in the back seat at that time. Maybe he was in the front seat like usual. But he braced himself before it happened, as if he could tell it was going to happen. He had some injuries, but it was slight. It was a slight injury. But it was risky, So it was just, and so many others. He had the heart attack, and the stroke and all these things. But Krishna protected him and saved him, and he said it was 12 years in which they would build everything up, and that's why we're sitting here. These books, produced the books. So, here's my little poem. Don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend, and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. That's the essence of it. So, let's go on if there's no questions. We did 19, we did 20. Yeah, 21. I just want to see if there's anything. Nitya Tripto. You said Nitya Tripta. This is again 20. Just to look at that one word. There's actually a lady named Nitya Tripta. Interestingly enough, and Prabhupada's disciple. He always satisfied, even though he's giving up all the fruits of his activity. Tyaktva karma palasangam. Not attached to the fruits of his activity. Work very hard and give it all to Krishna. That's the ideal. Of course, we have to maintain, so we have to. But you feel that the meaning of my life is to somehow participate in the Sankirtan movement, help others become Krishna conscious. A very, very serious and ecstatic mission. If I can help one other person come to Krishna, well, that's what the book's for. So let me try to give a book out, right? So I think both of you have had that experience, right? And when I work on these books, I'm always thinking, this will be easier for people to understand, and like that. So that's the most enlivening, because it's so most enlivening to Prabhupada. And Lord Chaitanya, that was his mission. Let this, in every town and village in the world, my name will be known and will be chanted. He made that prediction. But who actually, took it out of India? It wasn't just India he was talking about. He was talking about the world. Pritva means the earth. And Prabhupada took it seriously. Bhaktisiddhanta took it seriously. He sent some devotees to England. They had so much money. They had a whole book written that was especially written to present there, in English, of course. But they couldn't do it. They couldn't start anything in England. They went toward the hoi polloi. They went toward the lords and ladies, trying to get them involved. One or two showed a little bit of interest. Prabhupada went, where he could find serious practitioners, It certainly wasn't the mayors and he didn't, he was people in the street, But they were intelligent. This is the hippie area, so people were like looking. It was Krishna's arrangement just at that time. Just at that time, I was there. Huh? Yes. Yeah. You can see. These help to nourish your faith when you see these miracles happen. How the thing developed, and how it was sustained, and it's amazing. All right, let's go on. Text 21. Nirashir yata chittatma chakta sava parigraha shariram kevalam karma kovanapnoti kilbisham. Such a man, a human being, of understanding, acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he's not affected by sinful reactions. Kilbisham. No kilbisham, see? Purport. A Krishna-conscious person does not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. He knows that because he is part and parcel of the Supreme, the part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna-conscious person is always dovetailed with the Supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna-conscious person maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all the reactions of his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna-conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time to falsely possess any material object. For maintaining body and soul, he does not require unfair means of accumulating money. He does not therefore become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions. So, nirashir. Now this word asha, which you may recognize from the, if you've been to Tulsi Puja, this means a longing. It means a strong desire, But here it says nirashir, without desire for any result. Yata chittatma, with controlled mind and intelligence is very important, because the mind is what does thinking, feeling, and willing. Thinking, feeling, and willing. It's very nice just to think of those three things, and that determines our destiny. What you think about will definitely have to do with what you will, because you'll be attracted or repelled by what you think about. So the thinking is very important. The feeling and willing. Feeling, you develop a desire for something, or you develop a fear, want to get away from something, by perceiving through the senses and thinking, is this dangerous? Oh, this is very dangerous. This is not favorable. And then willing, you act in a certain way. It's all talking about karma, how you're going to act. And we want to act in such a way that it is called akarma, meaning that there's no reaction. You see, a karma is a description of devotional service that stresses the idea that you may be doing so many things, but there's no, you're becoming detached from the material world rather than further attached to it. Any other kind of work that's not in relation to Krishna will attach you through one of the modes. You may be a great intellect and you'll be reading and doing all these things and teaching, but it's all on the material level. You're seeing the world as without God in the center, and you're seeing, how I can manipulate it, or how I can advance to becoming erudite in this field of knowledge and teaching and whatever, You're still the center. Krishna is not the center. So all that means that you're tying further knots. There's something called Hridaya Granthi. Hridaya means the heart. and granti means knot, like a rope. So there's so many knots in the heart that we have tied, maybe previous lives, and things that we want to fulfill, and at a certain stage in life, the desire comes up, you know. So those knots, they need to be cut. And the way to cut them is by becoming attracted to Krishna. And then Krishna himself cuts them. You know, he relieves you. There's a nice verse Prabhupada would like to chant. Yat pada pallava palasha balasa bhaktya karmashayam. This word, that asha again, here's near asha. Karmashayam gratitam udgrantiyanti. The gratitam is another form of the word granta. Udgratiyanti. The knots are untied. You know, gratitam udgratiyanti santa. Santa is the same word in English. And it's Santa. We're sitting here in San Diego. We go up to go to Santa Fe. You know, saint, the saints, the devotees. Yat para pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya. So this is a very important line. Those who through bhakti, devotional service, are enjoying the spiritual pleasure, which is called vilas, by serving the lotus feet of Krishna. Actually says the toes of the lotus feet of Krishna. Pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya. Karmashayam means the desires for fruitive activity, owning things, enjoying things for myself. Those are the gratitam, those are the knots, they become udgratiyanti, untied or cut for the devotees. Karma gratitam udgratiyanti. Then it says, karmashayam gratitam udgratiyanti santa tadvan narikta matayo yatayo piruddha. But those whose hearts are devoid of bhakti, who are not acting in that way, although they may be great jnanis and tapasvis and yogis, but as rikta matayo means their minds are empty of bhakti, no bhakti. Tadbanda rikta matayo yatayo, they're striving to become detached. They also know that if they don't want to come back to this world, they have to get free from the attachments. So they perform these severe austerities with no bhakti. They're not divya. They're not divine penances or austerities, but they're material. But they can be very severe. Prabhupada gives the example, you have these yogis, oh, it's summertime, hot, okay, great, let's go out to the desert, build a bunch of fires and sit in the middle and meditate. Oh, it's wintertime, it's cold, great, let's go into the Ganges zone, break the ice, walk in and just meditate in the ice water. In other words, they're very determined, you know. But they cannot stop the waves of material desire that comes. Prabhupada gives this example in the Shastra, in the Bhagavatam. There was a great yogi named Saubhari Muni. And he was meditating for years underwater. Somehow he was able to exist underwater. And he wasn't, but in the Yamuna, but he wasn't a devotee. He was in the Yamuna River, but he was a yogi, you know. And so he's meditating, you know. And then he opens his eyes, and there's a couple of fish copulating, you know, for a couple of seconds, you know. And that was too much. That was too much for him. He couldn't take it anymore. So he comes out of the water. He wants to get married, you know. He's old. He's old and all wrinkly. You know, when you get wet, you know. So anyway, he finds some king or something. He has so many daughters, you know. And so he says, oh, I want to marry your daughters. So the king, he says, oh boy, this guy's old, he's all wrinkly. I don't want to, you know, foist him off on one of my daughters. Okay, anyone who wants to marry you, you know, they can come and like that. So Saubhari Muni understood what he was doing. He was trying to be polite and avoid getting cursed. So he didn't say no. He just said, sure, any of my daughters who wants to marry you, they can do it. But none when, you know, he's so old and wrinkly. So he had, by his mystic power, he turned himself into a young and handsome man. The yogis can do that, you know. So then all the daughters married him. I forget how many there was, 50 daughters or something. Yeah, they all married him. So now he's entangled, and he's having children, and all this stuff. And finally he comes to his senses, what did I do? I gave up my position as a yogi, and now I'm all entangled in this family life. So he took sannyas again, you know. But it just shows you that without Krishna, you can become, you know, for years you can practice these severe austerities and apparently be renounced, but those desire seeds have not been burned up. They're still in your heart. And there's so many instances in the Shastra. And sometimes Indra, you know, we know from living here that Indra sometimes loses it. You know, he's ready to kill all the residents of Vrindavan because they didn't offer him this sacrifice. What kind of sin is that? He's a demigod. He's a devotee, but he lost it, because his name is Indra. It's not an accident that the word for senses is Indriya, and that his name is Indra. You get the association? He's very sensual, So anyway, Indra, periodically, if someone is, some yogi is practicing severe austerities, getting powerful, like Hiranyakashipu got powerful from the austerities, Indra is always trying to take my position. So he'll send one of the heavenly damsels from heaven down to try to seduce him, to break his yoga thing. So that happens periodically. Vishwamitra, so it's all a game. Indra's a devotee, and he performs but he's an example of a sakama devotee, not a pure devotee. He's part of it is that he likes to run heaven, and he has enjoy and everything. But he's very dutiful, and he takes care of the weather. He's doing an important service. But that's not what we want. We don't want to become the demigod in heaven. We want to go right past heaven, say no, thank you, and go back to Goloka Vrindavan, and just take the position of an eternal servant of Krishna, and taking our pleasure in seeing that Krishna is happy with our service. That's the ideal. No material desire. You have to. It has to be a motivation. Ahoitaki does not mean unmotivated. It means not materially motivated. Motivated by the desire to see Krishna happy, and the devotees, and the spiritual master, and even to go back to Godhead. We'll leave that up to Krishna. You see, we'll leave that. And mukti also, the devotees leave that up to Krishna. Bilvamangal Thakur, because mukti means liberation from birth and death. Now it's interesting because bhakti is an evolution of desire and aspiration, meaning that this inducement of becoming free from birth and death and going back to Godhead is a very important thing at the beginning. Is because we're very familiar with the suffering of this world. We know that it's very dangerous, and with a little study of Bhagavad Gita, we understand, yes, so many births I've passed already. I want to get out of this birth and death, old age. Krishna says right in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, one of the elements of knowledge, he has a whole list there, is janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. To always be aware, dosha, anudarshanam means to see the evils. Evil doesn't mean that it's, demonic. It means that it's painful. That's another meaning of evil. Of birth, old age, disease, and death. So, okay, I want to get free of that. Okay, so chant Hare Krishna, get up early, So you're doing the bhakti things, and that's part of your motivation. Now that I know, I never knew before. I lived before, I'm going to have another future birth. So let me plan ahead, not just for a few years, but for eternity. So that's fine. That's a good thing to keep you on the path. Okay, I don't want to do anything to disturb my wholesome position of bhakti because I want to get out of here. I don't want to come back to this. But that motive is still a material motive, utterly. But it's wholesome because it keeps you on the path of bhakti. Just like, oh boy, I can't believe how wonderful those gulabjamans are, or that halva. I hope they have that halva this month. Let me go back to the temple and see on the Sunday. Maybe they'll have that, date halva or whatever halva they're making. So that may be, like you say, material desire. But that's prasadam. You come in here, and there'll be the kirtan, and there'll be this lecture, and there'll be the whole experience, and then you'll have your strawberry halva, and you'll realize, oh, this is so nice, and I know it was offered, so it's prasadam. And ultimately, you become more pleased, as we sing every morning, if you come to Mangalarti, Chatur Vadashi Bhagavat Prasada Svadvana Chittam Hari Bhakti Sangan Kritvaiva Triptam Bhagavat Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guroshi Charanadavan. I offer my obeisance to the Guru, the lotus feet of the Guru, who is very pleased and happy when he sees the devotees being pleased eating Krishna Prasadam. Not that he's taking the Krishna Prasadam. That's also pleasing in another way, but he's most pleased to see, the devotees are taking Prasadam, they're becoming purified. See, it's always taking pleasure in seeing how Krishna is so pleased that more and more people are becoming devotees. And that's, you experience that. You go out on book distribution, or even Harinam, and somebody comes and dances, or they take the pamphlet, or they take the book. How does that benefit you? You're not going to keep the money, it's because Super Soul is very pleased. Krishna's pleased that he's giving insight. That's the other half of the verse. The verse that I quoted from the Gita before, that the wise intelligent person does not take part in the pleasures that are due to the contact of the senses with the sense objects. O son of Kunti, such pleasures are the sources of all misery. Why? Because they bring you back again to another birth in this material world. Birth, old age, disease, and death. You know? And they have a beginning and an end. They're temporary. Unlike spiritual pleasure. Anantam. See, it has no end. So the wise don't take part. So in the previous verse, Krishna gives the alternative. Bhaya sparsheshu asaktatma vindatyatmani yatsukam sab brahma yoga yuktatma sukam akshayam ashnude. Eschewing. You know what eschewing means? Rejecting. Bhaya sparsheshu, the external contact of the senses with the sense objects, which is sense gratification. Bhaya asaktatma, he doesn't want that. Vindatyatmani yatsukam, because the devotee is enjoying the pleasure within. He's contacting that reservoir of pleasure which we have in our hearts. Krishna's there, you see. Yatsukam, sab brahma yoga yuktatma, in touch with Brahman. In this case, the Supreme Brahman is Krishna. Sab brahma yoga yuktatma, sukam akshayam ashnute. He enjoys unbreakable happiness. That's the alternative. Now, if we don't believe in it, then we won't try it. But that faith, you know, which is confirmed by a little practice. Yeah, I'm getting a little taste here. Yeah, the Hare Krishna mantra. The service, yeah, the devotees are so nice. Oh my God. And that festival, whoa. You know, I mean, in other words, if you experience some of it, it's not all just faith, it's direct experience. That's why Krishna says, second verse, 9th chapter, Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavatamidam Uttamam Pratyakshabagamam Dharmyam, that this knowledge of Krishna consciousness is the king of education, Rajavidya. Rajaguyam, and the most confidential, and the most purifying, supremely purifying, Prabhatamidam Uttamam, and Pratyakshabagamam. Pratyaksha means it's perceivable directly. It's not something theoretical. You'll become liberated in 100 years when you leave your body. No. You'll feel the liberation right now. You'll feel the bliss right now. So that's the alternative. And this was Lord Chaitanya's mercy, giving this method of Harinam Sankirtan, that anyone from any level, any material condition at all, can take part and experience the wonder of the results of it and be blessed. So many places in the Bhagavatam, the glories. This is Devahuti, the husband of Kardama Muni, mother of Kapila Dev. She's saying, Aho bata shapatroto gariya. You know this one? Aho bata shapatroto gariya yad jigvagre vartate namatubhyam te puste juhavu sastaraya brahmana chur nama gunanti yete. Aho, how wonderful it is. Bata, how more wonderful it is. Swapachoto gariya, even the dog eaters, you know, if on the tip of their tongue the holy name is vibrating, whatever realization they have, at least they're vibrating, you know. Swapachoto gari, and how glorious they are. Jigvagre, literally on the tip of the tongue. Vartate nama tubhyam, your name, because she knows that Kapila Dev is an incarnation of Krishna. Her son is, you know, Krishna avatar. They must have performed all kinds of austerities in the past, performed all sacrifices, and, you know, they juhavu sasnarat, bathed in the holy places. Brahmanuchu Nama Gunanti, those who are chanting your name. Previous life, they have all of these assets that's brought up to this point, to just be chanting your holy name. So this is the gift Lord Chaitanya gave. Cutting through all the preliminaries. You take birth in a Brahmin family, no, not necessary. You know, chant all the Vedas, raised like this, that's not necessary. Just now, if you take up the chanting, then all the purification will start very powerfully and you'll be raised up to the highest platform. And that's why Leches and Yavanas like me had a great fortune of meeting a devotee and getting a book, you know, that precious book. All right, so where were we? 22, right? Yadvicha labha santushto dvanvatito vimatsara. I'm sorry, we were on page 209. Yeah. I'll wait for my friend Ram Vilasi. He's practicing Chaturmasya early. I think you got your beard growing here. All right. Yadvicha labha santushto dvanvatito vimatsaraha samak siddha siddhaucha Kritpapi nanabadhyate. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled although performing actions. Purport: a Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as is in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. He does not accept engagement in anyone's service if it might hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness. However, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world. The duality of the material world is felt in terms of heat and cold, or misery and happiness. A Krishna conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in any way for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, he is steady both in success and in failure. These signs are visible when one is fully in transcendental knowledge. So, yadvicha labhasantushto, I remember that phrase as, living in the ashram, really, having nothing and being satisfied. I must say, though, when I in Brooklyn, when the Sunday would come around, we're in this house, and the cooking, everything is going up, you're smelling the whole thing all day. The preparation is going on, but I don't know if I could have survived without the Sunday feast during those days. But that was Prabhupada's genius, he know that this is going to be difficult for them because of him. So we'll give them this very opulent prasadam, and that will, they'll sublimate all of their sense gratification into that, and gradually they'll come to the point of, okay, cool it out, getting the higher taste. But Ladrisa labhasantushto, that's such an important phrase, to be satisfied with it comes of its own accord. And not to be freaked out, oh, I had this, now I lose that. This is a sign of, Brahma, Brahma Bhuta Nashochiti Nakangchiti. The Brahman, to come to the Brahman stage, spiritual stage, beyond the modes of nature, means that they're not lamenting and not hankering. Whatever you have, whatever Krishna has given you, then you use in Krishna's service. You, if you're a household or whatever, you endeavor to have a healthy life. Hare Krishna. Oh, this is the lady side. Sorry. Just sit on this side. Yeah, this will be fine. We try to maintain that. And we're almost finished with the class. We'll be having our tea at 8:15, but we're at text 22. And so, to be yadriksha labhasantushto, dvandvatita, and in this way to rise above the dualities. Because being concerned with all the dualities, that's the conditioned state. That's how we got here. Bhayam dvitiya bandhaveshataksya isha dapetasya viparyosmati. Isha dapetasya, Isha is the Lord, the controller, turning away from the Lord, getting absorbed in the good and bad of this material world. That causes great fear. Because we forget our supporter, our well-wisher. Suddenly it's us against the universe, and we're going to lose. The battle every time. We're going to die, get born again. So, Bhayam dvitiya bandhaveshataksya isha dapetasya viparyo asmati. You forget everything, and you're reversing your natural position. Instead of a servant, you want to be the master. Instead of giving enjoyment to Krishna, you want to be the enjoyer. You see? And this causes all our suffering. We stay entangled in this material world. So the solution to that is to turn again back toward Krishna. Viparyosmati tanmayato, because of Maya's influences happens. Buddha, intelligent person, abhajetam, again turns and worships him by taking up devotional service. How? Bhakti aikayation, with one-pointed devotional service. Under the guidance of a guru, a spiritual preceptor, who you worship as good as God. And so that in that one verse, so much is there. How to overcome the fears? It's always there. There's so many things that can just freak us out in this world. And danger comes, disease and old age and, money problems and one thing after. That's what this material world is all about. So can you imagine me going through those things and not being disturbed? We're reading about Prahlad Maharaj in the morning. He's the incredible example of that. He was so fixed on Krishna, so much relying on Krishna. His little boy, his father's this monstrous demon, and he fearlessly preaches devotional service to him, to Hari, who he regards as his archenemy because he killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. So, this is speaking truth to power, and his father finally says, "Oh, he's a poison tree in the dynasty. Let's just kill him." Imagine, 5-year-old son, but he can't. He can't even disturb him. He's so meditating, he throws him in a vat of oil, he's protected. Boiling oil, he's protected. Crushing under the elephants, he's protected. Poison, bite of the serpent, no effect. This freaks him out, Hiranyakashipu, because the strength is obviously there from God. And who comes out of the pillar, the Shringadeva, kills him. So we can also experience that, the protection. Prabhupada showed the way. He was asked, what do you feel from the chanting? Prabhupada answered, fearlessness, no fear. You can't get that on a material platform. And he showed it, in so many instances. Okay, so we're out of time. Thank you so much. One more session tomorrow for those who would like to come. And thank you for the online attendance. Chad, Haribol. See you soon in person.
Thank you, Haribol.
We'll
Great lecture.
Hare Krishna.
And tapas, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Haribol.
All right. So we're going to have a kirtan now. Do we see the deities? I'm sorry? We don't have a time. But no, because we have to get everything ready. But after the kirtan, since you want one, I'll have a poem. Several poems. All right, let me place this where it's supposed to